Now joining us now live from Geneva, Christian Lennmeyer, spokesperson for the World Health Organization, to talk more about the dire situation in the Gaza Strip and about the healthcare system also in Gaza. Mr. Lennmeyer, thank you for joining us on Q News. Now, can you first describe the current state of the healthcare system with a year in this war that Israel has waged on Gaza?
Yeah, with the current attacks, the ongoing attacks, and the actually very new attacks yesterday and 7 October, apparently a barrage of new attacks in the north especially, it's looking more and more dire. Although, again, it's difficult to say that it's looking more and more grim because we've been saying this since at least 9 months, if not the whole year. Officially, 17 hospitals of the 36 are partially functioning. But partially means that sometimes a ward is only functioning and certainly not the whole hospital. So the hospitals are lacking everything. They're lacking construction and intact buildings. They're lacking fuels for operation. They're lacking medical supplies, including the most basic medicines. And they're lacking staff because staff has either been killed, is somewhere hiding and running, or is not able to come to the clinics or to the health centers. So everything which concerns a hospital is lacking.
Now, but let's talk more about what you said about the workers and the healthcare system. There's been concerns regarding the safety of these workers. Now, how do you feel the international community is targeting this issue and working towards,
you're asking about the safety,
and how they're working towards safety for the workers who are working in the healthcare system and volunteering actually for many of the international organizations?
It's a horrible situation. We have had over 500 attacks on healthcare in this year. Nearly 800 healthcare personnel have been killed. Over 765 people have been killed. Healthcare personnel, that's doctors, nurses, ambulance drivers. 990, so nearly 1,000 have been injured in these attacks. A horrible scenario for the safety. UNRWA reports more than 200 UN humanitarian staff killed. So the situation for healthcare personnel is horrible. It's as horrible as for the whole population. And that should not be the case. At least healthcare should be safe because they're the last resort, the last hope for people, not only for war injuries, for every little disease, for childhood injuries, for mothers who are pregnant, or women who are pregnant who have children. So everything needs healthcare staff. It's the last hope for people. So the fact that healthcare is not safe, the fact that an ambulance cannot get to a location because it's not safe, and because there's no fuel, and because there's no staff, is an absolute unbearable situation for the population, and it should not be the case. In any major conflict, the humanitarian aid, the medical aid, the support of the people has to be absolutely maintained.
Do you think there's enough pressure on Israel regarding this point, Christian? Christian, can you hear me?
I only heard you say regarding this point.
Yes, I was asking, do you think there's enough pressure on Israel regarding this point, ensuring the safety of health workers and the staff of the international organizations in Gaza?
Every day, and nearly since exactly 1 year, every day, the UN, the World Health Organization, the International Red Cross, the health organizations, the Palestinian Red Crescent, everybody with influence has tried and is continuing to try to push and to convince the Israelis that healthcare must be maintained as a minimum basic. Let's think about the water and on top of it. And in very, very rare, no, let's not say in very rare cases, material has been coming across trucks of WHO and other organizations have come across to try to get other hospitals running, and some fuel has been given, but it's always too little. It's always too little. It's never enough. When there's an interest by Israel, like in the polio campaign, then it suddenly works. The first round of the polio campaign worked. It worked as planned, nearly.
Okay,
and that's a good
let's
sign.
talk a little bit more about that,
but
Christian, the polio
nasty
campaign.
thing is that when there's apparently no interest for Israel, all help and all facilitation is too little, too late, or not coming at all.
Okay, let's talk more about the polio campaign, because there's a second round for vaccinations. What are the specific measures the WHO is implementing to ensure the successful delivery of vaccines during that challenging period? What are the lessons that you've learned from the first round?
So the polio campaign was really a really difficult operation. First, there's a plan, and then we knew from the beginning that the plan has to be adapted basically by the hour, always to the new realities. As you may recall, in the beginning, we found much more people in that first area in the north where we started than we had thought so. In the middle, I think we started. Then more people were found than planned. Because with the huge displacement and the people movements, it's very difficult to know exactly how many people are where. Normally, you go house to house in a polio campaign. You do in clinics and hospitals, but you also go simply house to house and get everybody. That is absolutely not possible at this point. And with the renewed attacks and the heightened attacks now since yesterday, there's more displacement, and people who have been in location A are now in B or in Z and will move again. And that's the biggest challenge, to make sure that you reach everyone, because it's important to reach everyone and to reach everyone a second time. So every day, the planning, the convoys, the dimensions had to be extended or changed or adjusted. And the first round was a success. And we seriously hope that the support by everyone and temporary ceasefires will again be implemented, so that the second round also is a success. But again, there's high interest on the Israeli side. So we are very positive that this may lead to a successful second round as well.
Okay, another point regarding children, Christian. Obviously, there has been reports about the mental health among the population, but children have been definitely impacted the most, as per these reports. Now, what kind of measures does the WHO intends to take in the coming days or the coming weeks to ensure the safety of many individuals and children in the Gaza Strip regarding the mental health issues, of course, during this time?
You're talking about one of the biggest challenges. I mean, we're talking about children who have lost their parents, who have lost their siblings, who have watched losing their parents and their siblings, who have looking to the sky, and every sound they hear is not a bird or anything peaceful. It's or looking at the kites they used to fly in Gaza. It's bombs and drones. The schools where they should be sitting and learning and have a safe environment are being bombed, or used as shelters and being destroyed or have been destroyed. So mental health is a crucial aspect for those children, but also for the adult ones. But of course, because also a mentally disturbed child now, this is a whole generation which is growing up with learning about destruction and war and absolute disrespect for humanitarian ways and absolute disrespect for any human life. So the impact for the long term is something we cannot even imagine. So yes, mental health is the biggest challenge, and the little aspect that we can do under these circumstances, WHO and partners are trying to provide. They're providing support in the shelters. They're providing support together with UNICEF in the remaining areas and schools, together with UNRWA in the shelters and the places. But we have to be clear, this is definitely not enough. It's like a drop in the ocean. If we're lucky, it's 2 drops in the ocean, but not enough.
There were also concerns regarding the problems regarding the pandemics that could actually spread in Gaza, and what kind of fears are we looking at? What kind of concerns are we looking at towards this point, Christian?
But the concerns are, well, first of all, I mean, many diseases like skin rashes and lung infections and hepatitis, we know has been spreading. Luckily, I would say so far we have not seen cholera, but we have seen we are seeing diarrheal diseases. So the hepatitis, the diarrheal diseases, other infections, lung infections, maybe even tuberculosis problems, all this has to be monitored and prevented. But the monitoring system is basically in shambles. The laboratories are in shambles. The surveillance systems that was functioning really well in Gaza before is in shambles. So monitoring, surveying this is a huge challenge. And with the fresh water and the sanitation situation, the upcoming winter, of course, this is only getting worse. And there's too few intact housing where people can find shelter in this coming winter. So it's a huge challenge, and it's a huge catastrophe actually for the people on the ground. All humanitarians are trying their best and to bring in as much help as possible, but it needs the political will from all sides, and it needs the political will from the warring parties, and it needs the political will from Israel.
Now, as you mentioned, the winter is upon us, and of course there are concerns for many of the Palestinians who were forced out of their homes or displaced into places that are called safe places, but they are not, because they've been bombed and been targeted by the Israeli army. Now, what are the measures that can be taken in the coming weeks and the coming months before winter, so we can ensure the safety of these Palestinian people?
Well, as we know, I mean, a ceasefire would be definitely the solution. We know that, peace, or at least a temporary ceasefire, which would also allow finally for the hostages to be able to return. Some of them, no, the hostages are 1 year now in their situation. Let's not forget that. But for the people, they have been displaced and moved around, new attacks now since yesterday. The safe areas that are being designated as safe areas have to be safe areas. That would be one of the most important things if we cannot have a ceasefire. So we need to have at least large areas, zones, north, south, middle, everywhere, where people can actually take shelter and know that they can be safe there for months, not just maybe for 24 hours. And that is even a question. So these are the biggest challenges, which is obviously not something that we have seen so far. The military requirements apparently from the Israeli side have made it impossible. Safe zones declared on one day are suddenly being shelled and bombed the next day without any further notification. Big zones which had just been designated shelter areas are then having to be cleared again and people moved around. So it's crazy. It's crazy for the people on the ground. They're being moved around like puppets, and at the end of the day, literally jumping from stone to stone, trying to find some shelter where they can be safe for 1 night, for 2 nights, or 3 nights. Horrible scenario.
And what kind of hospitals are we talking about when these people are displaced and they need to go to hospitals, or they need treatment? Is there any kind of treatment that can be provided for these people when they are being displaced and moving all the time?
A lot of things can be provided by the UN, who has a lot of experience in providing safety and shelter in crisis areas and in crisis scenarios. But it needs the agreements and the will of the political factions and the military factions on the ground. It would be possible to build up tent areas. It would be possible to refurbish some of the most important structures. It would be possible to refurbish or at least to get some of the hospitals up and running again. If material is being let in, if water and supplies are being let in, if critically injured people are also being evacuated outside, and if areas are designated as safe areas, stay safe areas. Unless we have a full ceasefire, that of course would be the best of all. But we're not even realistically talking about that anymore. We're talking about how to patch the big holes with little needles and threads, while it would be so easy if the political will from so many groups would be there.
Thank you, Christian Leinmeier, a spokesperson for the World Health Organization. Thank you so much.